A very warm WDI welcome to Jan Williams from the campaign group Object.
I had some lovely notes to talk to you from, but I don't know what I've done with them, so I'll just talk anyway. Object was founded in 2008 and initially campaigned mainly against lads' mags and then prostitution. It had some success in getting the law changed on prostitution so that it became illegal to have sex in prostitution with a woman you know to have been trafficked. You can imagine how many cases have been onto that, but at least we did something. And we got lads' mags shrink-wrapped and put on the top shelf after we drew attention to the nasty and exploitative sexualised content there was. And we had a lot of fun doing the kind of direct action that Leah was talking about, although maybe you shouldn't have fun doing these things, but it is nicer if you do. We had a lot of fun dancing around W.H. Smith's in our pyjamas after they said that you couldn't come in pyjamas. Probably one or two people here who joined us, and so we sang "Porn is much worse than pyjamas" and danced the conga round and round the shop, and got a lot of people interested. And in the end, they shrink wrapped them and put them on the top shelf. And of course, it was all going online then anyway. But hey, I always think with direction, you might as well have fun. Some of us had a lot of fun at the Kenwood Ladies Pond Association the other week, because sometimes just to go out there in a group of you and tell your truth gives you a huge feeling of empowerment. You hope it does some good as well, but a huge feeling of empowerment cannot go wrong when we are the only oppressed majority in the whole world. So we've done lots of stuff like that. It got a dodgy chief exec. You had people involved who were very good at getting funding, and we got a paid chief executive who went off with the loot. I did report her to the police and she was interviewed, but they no-crimed it. So it was kind of reformed by a few of us in 2016, and we decided that since the founder of Object originally had gone off to campaign against strip clubs, and there was now organisations campaigning on prostitution and porn, that we would broaden things out in a radfem direction, and we would take on transgender, which was just trending then, and surrogacy, which nobody was very much doing, although I know Nordic Model now campaign on that. So off we go, 5 issues. I call it the 5 pillars of patriarchy. They are 5 interlinked systems which combine to keep us under the thumb, exploited, used, unpaid, and constantly looking after everybody. And it's not a good thing. Our line is we work with all single issue organisations on these topics. We try and collaborate. Because sometimes they struggle to manage on their own. There's a great organisation called Stop Surrogacy Now, but it hasn't got any money, and it had a Facebook group and an email list. It didn't have anything else. So we last year ran the UK's first sorrow-critical, I hope this word is in your vocabulary, sorrow-critical conference to point out to people what was wrong with surrogacy. We were first out on the trans issue back when Stephanie was thinking of founding Transgender Trend and so on. So we've always collaborated with all those organisations. And I lost work because I was outed as a TERF, and I worked for Humanists UK. You'd think Humanists UK would be all right, wouldn't you, that they would approve of people taking direct action for their principles. But no, they didn't. They generated a complaint against me. And although I fought the complaint successfully, it was raised by the 2 gay guys at the top of the organisation, and they made 3 women administer it. And I fought the complaint, obviously, successfully. Maria McLachlan, who's also a humanist funeral celebrant, came with me. And in fact, the 3 women said we completely peaked them. The whole case had completely peaked them. And the chair of the panel came round to my house and sat in my kitchen saying she was terribly sorry about what had happened, and I think she's left the organisation now. So even with the humanists, you are not safe. And as we know, dozens and dozens and dozens of women have suffered. The people we've heard today have suffered since then. And I have to say, TERF Ireland is doing a great job fighting back against, it's a very worldwide, a very male agenda. And sometimes it's good just to do something. It's great to come to conferences and liaise and get into groups and so on. We've taken I call it taking pot shots at people. We took a pot shot at the Open University when it put out one of its online courses about, I think it was working with transgender people, or something like that. And we have a secret weapon in Object. It's called Dr. Anna Cleaves. She's on the reception desk today. She's a former OU science tutor So I'm the one that writes the complaints part, and she's the one that did the science, and we sent in a cracking letter to the Vice-Chancellor, you know, why mess about, go to the top. And after, you know, trying to ignore us for a little while, we heard that he wrote and said to him, he complained the fact that we had outed his secretary's name, because we put it on the website, of course, and we thought, well, you know, really, maybe you should have replied to your own complaint rather than getting your secretary to reply to it. In the end, we got a message saying the course had been taken down for review, which was nice. This was 3 or 4 years ago. And today I've spoken to somebody from the Open University who tells me that the person who put that course up there is no longer with the Open University. In fact, am I dreaming when I said she went to work for... No, somebody else. Maybe she didn't. Anyway, she's no longer there. So sometimes you can, if you're very specific, you can force these organisations to take a step back. And that is very, very satisfying. Of course, that encourages other people to do the same thing. So a few things like that. Heather, my thing about the Fawcett Society, Heather Binning from the Women's Rights Network's great, building loads of groups and networks. She's kind of put it out there. So since she's put it out there, I'd been going around asking people I knew, because I didn't really want the Fawcett Society to know they're going to get turf raided. But since she's put it out there, can I suggest all of you please join the Fawcett Society? We need it back. It's symbolic, like the Kenwood Ladies Pond. It's ours and we want it back. The Fawcett Society, save you spending too long online, there's 3 types of membership. There's full membership, which I have joined. There is concessionary membership, and there is family membership. And you can choose your family, just like your glitter family, you know? So you don't all have to be from the same household, have the same surname. 4 of you get together in the same area, join the Fawcett Society. They have groups, little groups you can go along to. They've got one in East London, one in the West Midlands, and I've been talking to some of the West Midlands feminists. Go to these groups, enthuse. You don't have to go in there waving your turf insignia straight away. Sell yourself as a nice little feminist and ask a question like, what happened at, the sport thing? What an interesting decision. What do people think, you know? Isn't it strange how J.K. Rowling seems to go on and on, despite, all the stuff? Weird, you know? Make people think. A lot of these people are being sort of trans activists because they don't engage brain, they just engage their feelings. And someone said, oh, poor little trans people, and they've jumped on they want to be nice, they want to be kind, they struggled with the idea of same-sex attraction being, but they got there and they want everyone to know they can do trans as well. So make them think. And have a good time, go to the pub afterwards, of course. And eventually there will be an AGM and there will be elections. Now, when I looked on the Fawcett Society website, I couldn't see anybody I'd heard of in the trustees. They used to be quite well-known people. Baroness Jenkin was on there. She's the Conservative Party's secret weapon, who started Conservatives for Women and so on. Please don't think I'm a Conservative voter. I am not. I'm a ballot paper spoiler. So the people on there must be thinking that nothing much is happening. Let's face it, the only decent activity in women's rights activism is here. Equal pay is all very well, the BBC do their sort of lip service to it. No one really cares. So get in the Fawcett Society, stir things up a bit. When election time comes, we'll put some candidates forward. They will know they have a lovely, huge range of support, because we will all support them, having joined. And off we go. It's fun, and it's non-violent, and it'll be a big victory when we get there. So that's what I suggest. Now, how can I put ask for a show of hands? Who thinks that this country was really prepared for the trans onslaught? No hands.
I think it might have been secretly really prepared, actually.
On the other side, they were very well prepared. Whatever you think about these people, you have to admire their strategy. They were very clever, very successful, and it's very well financed. We know by who. We've all read our Jennifer Bielek. What is going to be the next issue that we have to fight of a similar nature?
Legalisation of the sex trade and surrogacy.
Thank you very much. 2 of those. Yes, the sex trade might as well be legalised because no one really restricts it. Surrogacy is about to become liberalised. The government put out a report on Wednesday, and it's going to become liberalised. It's going to be freed up a bit. The report came out on Wednesday, and they seem to place a great deal of trust in the non-profits, these lovely charities, who of course are totally to be relied upon. We all know Stonewall. Kids Company, what happened there? Amnesty International, infiltrated by the sex trade, pro-legalisation. they're being so naive. I can't believe it. You know, we all know that a lot of people who work in these non-profits probably also got shares in the IVF clinic down the road. I've noticed clinics popping up in my area for prenatal screenings and tests. They're probably doing other things as well, including gender screenings, which they shouldn't be doing. So we have to be prepared for surrogacy. The Law Commission did some research on surrogacy a couple of years ago. They betrayed all their own principles. It's supposed to be fair, blah, ask all the right people. It didn't do any of that. I won't bore you with the details, but they did it in a really bad way. They only consulted women's organisations. Basically, you've got to remember, it's got to be a woman. If it's surrogacy, you need a woman to produce the child. There is always, always, always at least one woman involved, often more. They didn't bother consulting women's organisations. Basically, the all-party parliamentary group was set up because of Surrogacy UK. They got all their friends to write in letters asking for a review of the law. I think there was about 50 letters or something like that. A wonderful woman called Lauren Hampstead did some research on that. It's all referenced in our report. And so they came up with this plan to make surrogacy easy and liberal, and it was all fine, and pictures of baby feet and two guys, Tom Daly and his mate, and let's not look at the difficult issues at all. So we at Object did our own report. We consulted women's organisations and so on, and we produced this, asking women what they thought of the proposals, what they thought of surrogacy. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you what all the problems with surrogacy are. I'll tell you the number that we've identified. So far it's 63. But I'm going to suggest that rather than sitting there listening so obediently to me, that you actually engage with the people around you, and I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a chat and come up with some of the reasons that you think we should be putting out there to counter this view that surrogacy is harmless. So I'm going to switch myself off and let you talk to each other for a few minutes. Please wave at me if you think of a reason why surrogacy is not a good idea.
Okay, as I was saying, I do discuss this with my daughter quite a lot. So, I mean, we're not just TERFs, we're also radical feminists. So, obviously, there's a lot. It exploits poor women for their bodies.
Yep.
It's outsourcing motherhood.
Wait a minute, you're giving me I'm going to take one from you. Okay, so it exploits mostly poor women in poor countries. Thank you very much.
We don't own children, whoever they are.
Thank you. The child cannot consent. We do not own children. Yes?
No, I...
You were going to say the same. Lady with glasses there in the middle. Oh, she's got the mic. Oh, she's going to tell everybody.
Thinking about the welfare of the child should be taken away from its mother. They've not consented to that, and it's harmful.
Yes. Anyone know the most wonderful argument on that point? It's the puppies. Puppies have to stay with their mother for, I think it's 6 weeks after birth, be breastfed and loved and socialised. Human child, I know, take it the same day. It doesn't matter. It's very hard to argue with the puppies. Very good point. Okay, what else have we got? Lady at the back.
No account seems to be taken that the mother might have long-term mental and physical problems for the rest of her life.
Exactly. The whole of society seems to pressurise women. Have children, have children, have children. Oh, and give them up, by the way. All this about the cult of motherhood and how wonderful parenting is. It is wonderful. I've been one. It's not all wonderful, that's for sure. So no one takes account of the long-term financial, psychological impact on the mother. Absolutely, good point. One here, okay.
Well, we were saying in our group, you can't buy a 10-year-old.
Thank you.
You can't buy a 2-year-old, but you can buy a baby.
Yes.
Like, babies shouldn't be for sale.
Exactly.
Humans are not for sale.
Exactly.
It just makes me so upset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of us would say animals should not be for sale either. That's another point. Okay, Rachel, did you have a point?
Yeah, I struggled a bit when I first started thinking about this with the idea of altruistic surrogacy, like a sister having a baby
Yes.
for her sister who can't for whatever reason. And then I thought, what if your sister turns out to be married to an abusive piece of shit and you've created a baby who's now stuck in a... I mean, obviously, that can happen to any baby, but how would you feel if you'd had a baby and handed it over into a situation that's appalling?
Yeah. And very often those family arrangements do split the families, and, there's a matter of there's power dynamics in family systems just like there are in any other system.
Absolutely.
We do idealise the family, but we've all been part of one, and they are not all wonderful, are they?
Yeah, I mean, I know a woman. She's married into an Indian family, and one of the brothers' family couldn't have children, and she was told in no uncertain terms by her parents, by her parents-in-law that she should consider having a baby and handing it over. I mean, she didn't, but a lot of pressure was put on her to do that.
And what's that going to do to your relationships?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Lady behind you.
Oh, I think you were first. Oh,
I was thinking about the epigenetics of surrogacy, and so I went to another talk about it. It was the women that do it regularly, because there are some in really poor countries, they actively don't engage.
Yeah, dissociation. They
dissociate from it, and then also we don't know what effect that has. And then we might actually.
We have had some studies on it, and it's not good.
It's not going to be, is it? And also, then those children don't have the same rights as adopted children when it comes to finding out anything physical about themselves.
To be fair, the new government proposals mean that those children should be able to find out information more easily. But yeah, you're right. Yep.
We went into the way that it portrays women. It takes a human being and fragments her down to body parts and body functions. And,
objectifies her is the word you're looking for. Objectifies, exploits, and monetizes.
It's a complete, not even. I feel like it's worse than objectification, because it's not even whole things. Yeah, it's not even whole things to objectify. You're just taken down. You're talking about women as bare, essential, functional, fragmented, dehumanized.
Well, they have actually proposed that women who are unconscious, physically unconscious, should be used.
Courtesy from Norway. From Norway. Yeah, we have a thriving transhumanist bioethic. That's what it's called. Bioethical academic environment in Norway, and they recently published a proposal considering brain dead women being used as surrogates.
Yeah. Horrible, isn't it? Any more? We missed anything? Oh, forest of hands. Aja, yeah?
We've got this situation where babies are born with a disability, and then the parents that are buying them don't want them anymore, so then that child is left.
That's right. Or the parents divorce, or the parents change their mind. Yeah, or the parents. I saw a case recently where a parent commissioned 2 surrogates in different places.
Yes.
She was quite happy with the first baby, so she didn't want the second one. Okay? Yeah, another one?
Just in regards to the altruistic surrogacy.
So can we just put a little air quotes around that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think having children is a human right. I'm sorry that some dumb people have children and some smart people don't, but having your children is not a human right. And there's so many thousands of children languishing in orphanages, and it's just an ego that you want your own DNA passed on to someone else, like designer babies, and all these celebs just outsourcing. I'm too busy right now. Can I just get someone else to carry my baby
I'm too important. Some other little woman can do it that we don't know, we'll never know. Yeah. Any more? There's a few more at the back.
The woman in front of me pointed out that this just feeds into the classic neoliberal idea that if I am rich enough to pay for it, I deserve to have it.
Yes, absolutely. Capitalism, infinite choice, yeah. Another one here?
We've got the situation which has already happened where a paedophile has purchased the baby and was allowed to keep it, so there's that.
Yeah, and you cannot, even though you say there should be checks, you cannot check an international market. You know, a lot of poor countries have actually made surrogacy completely illegal because either their children are being taken away, and B, they realise that you cannot regulate an international market at all. Lady there, and then lady here.
I believe I've read that there are entire houses in some Asian countries full of women.
Yeah.
I think there's a danger of a real industrialisation.
Farming, I call it farming. That's what it is. We are farmed, yeah. Absolutely. Here, and then here.
Some children will cope with that information well. Other children will just feel horrific.
Yes,
and that could remain with them forever.
Look at all the fuss that we're here fighting about identity, the be-all and end-all. You are who you think you are tomorrow, and it'll be different. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. With adoption, at least you can say the child is in a bad situation, maybe through nobody's fault. The child needs a home. And I met somebody the other day at the New Zealand protest, in fact, and said, well, she was very glad she'd been adopted. She came from a really difficult family. She was in touch with her 3 half-sisters, and they all wish they'd been adopted too, because they'd had a shit childhood, you know? Adoption can work positively. This is deliberately creating children who are likely to have problems. It's different. Yeah, Amparo?
Yeah, this thing about being altruistic is just a big lie, because the industry thrives anyway. Those, every person but the mother will get paid anyway. So it's a way of fueling the industry anyway.
Altruistic, so it just means it's not commercial, it's not actually paid for. But when you look at the way that
the woman.
The woman, yes.
The only one.
Yes, exactly. Sorry? Yes.
Yeah.
Question.
Well, about the well-being of children, Susan Gorenbach here in the UK has done a lot of work supposedly showing that children are as good as the others.
Well, how long are you going to... I think there have been studies done. How long do you have to wait? I'd have to wait until, you know, I've brought up 2 children. They're just turning 30, and I'd say they've turned into human beings now. And they've got a degree of sense, and they can have a logical conversation with you. Have they really waited until a whole cohort of surrogated children hit 30? I don't think so, because I've seen statistics that the practice has gone up tenfold in the last 10 years. So I don't think they've done a thorough enough study. Anyone can do a study. Look at all those lovely studies about all the trans people, how they commit suicide if you didn't let them change. Come on. You can prove anything with statistics. They're usually self-report, they're usually small studies. You need to get a decent scientist loose on them. And until, we'll get Dr. Anna Cleves on it, and when she says it's okay, I'll believe you. Or her.
We've got 10 minutes, 12 minutes left.
Right. I would like you all to go out there with surrogacy and be ready to argue the point. People will say, and when people engage their feelings and say, you can bet your bottom dollar there's some really good arguments that are not coming into the picture. You will see pictures of beautiful little cute baby feet and happy gay and trans couples. Let me put one picture. This, you pick this up in reception if you're interested. This is a picture of a pregnant woman's stomach with a barcode on it. That is the picture to remember. That is the image. The best arguments are about children and puppies. Unfortunately, no one really cares about women. But we do need to make sure these proposals are discussed. We do need to be out there now. Because in 10 years' time, when we hear about all the sad sob stories about the women whose health has been ruined, I mean, no one talks about the impact on the NHS. We all know that as these private clinics spring up, left, right and centre, non-profit, of course, apart from all the people who are making money out of them, that when there's a difficult case that the clinic can't cope with, it'll go straight down the road to the Royal Free or the nearest NHS hospital. And if any of you read any of the reports about maternity services lately, they're considering not giving women gas and air because they can't open the windows. You know, well, black women are, God knows how many, they're much more likely to die and to be refused pain relief. Maternity services are not in the fit state to be landing a load more difficult cases on them. They really are not. Political surrogacy, yes. A lot of countries, this happens a lot between China and Japan, you can get citizenship. And if you think that you're involved with a regime that may fall, it's politic to get a baby through a surrogate in another country. And then if it all falls apart close to home, think of what's happening all across the Eastern Bloc at the moment. You can just go to that country, yes, I have a child here, brought up here, and off you go. So there are all sorts of uses surrogacy can be put to, other than people that want a child. All this needs to be out there. Right, now I'll stop and let you all have your questions.